Greetings. Thank you, ETHR, for inviting us for this discussion. I know there have been a lot of webinars on the changing times and how the new normal and the old normal. But I think today with Bindu and Raghav with us in the panel today, we want to look at the same topic from a different perspective. The different perspective for a simple reason that there is no one size fitting all. The workforce will change. Definitely everything around the workforce will change. The way we have hired people, the way we have trained them, the way we have developed them, the way we have also prepared a high potential list and a succession plan, all of them will need to be revisited, and that is for certain, because the requirement for the new generation, when I say new generation, the new times post-COVID will be very different than what we have been used to. Now, it is not a bad news to have new situation come up, but the advantage of a panel discussion like this is to proactively look at some of the things that we can do right now as learning and HR professionals to prepare the organization better. For example, the whole idea of gig work coming in. This was there in some pockets earlier, but now because of business necessity, reducing costs and getting more for less will force organization to not invest in talent, for example. Now, if you don't invest in talent, what is the workforce going to be? How are we going to develop a workforce if there is a reluctance to invest in that workforce itself? There'll be short-term contracts. In fact, with the new labor code coming in, fixed-term employment will become legalized, and everything doesn't look very nice on the surface when you really put it down on the grassroots level, because there are many employers, very unfortunately, who will be exploiting the situation to take shortcuts. Now, that is a reality. We don't want to go into the darker side of it, but the idea is to look at that if the workforce is going, the composition of workforce. Also, I feel that the neat boxes that we have in the organization charts will not be there anymore. People will be asked to do peripheral work around their own work that has been assigned so far. Neat job descriptions will be obsolete. So all this looks very easy to talk on a webinar like this, but when it really happens, then we are running around to find out how do we handle the situation. So it's a good idea to prepare ourselves in advance, proactively to say, if these changes are likely to happen, which in certainty will happen, how do we then prepare ourselves as HR and learning professionals to move forward to prepare the organization ready for the new way of working? So with those thoughts, I will now go over to Raghav, and Raghav is the CEO for Coursera. And in fact, Coursera has been an outstanding contribution for the last 8-9 years, Raghav, in India.
That's right. That's right.
First time I heard that was in IIT, and I'd gone to speak there, and some of these youngsters told me that if you're so keen on learning something new, go to Coursera. And Bindu is CLO for Harman Group. And I've known Bindu earlier also. It's good that we have these two young professionals who are forward-thinking with us today. And I'm not just trying to flatter them just because they're on the panel, but knowing the track record and the way they think, they'll bring in a lot of. So Bindu, let me start, Bindu, with you. That what is the strategy that you are thinking of adopting or changing to prepare the workforce in your organization?
Sure. Thank you, Akhil. And firstly, thank you for having me. Extremely delighted to be part of this discussion today. So this is a very interesting question, in terms of Harman's strategy in preparing our workforce. As any other industry, any other organization, Harman too is going through tremendous changes. From an organization perspective, we have a very simple model that we have adopted. Simple yet powerful, right? And what we call this internally is a 3E model. It's all about, how do we engage, enable, and empower. So engage to really create that scalability within the organization. How do we enable the workforce by building the right type of skill sets, which is both current and future required. And empower is all about how do you really create that sustainable ecosystem, right? So how do we, drive this entire bit? So the most fundamental philosophy in the organization is, from a employee engaged standpoint, it's extremely important for our workforce to really understand and align to larger Harman goal. Why we exist, what it does, and how it trends, right? So we have something very interesting that we had come up a couple of years back, what we call this as the employee value proposition, just like the customer value proposition. And we do extensive internal branding, awareness, and communication on this value proposition, which consists of four interesting pillars. So we say agility, which is that's something which empowers growth within Harman. Diversity, that spurs innovation. Global teamwork and collaboration, which creates those world-class solutions. And then, challenging self to bring out the best. So from the second D, which is more enable, it's that learning ecosystem that we talk about. How do we continue stimulate that culture of learning, right? How do we make it holistic? How do we make it continuous? So in Harman, we have a very strong platform, what we call it as Harman University, and 4 key academies, under Harman University, which works in tandem to make this entire ecosystem possible for the organization. So when we talk about enabling, it's not just about the technology enablement that we talk about, but also making it, as I mentioned, holistic. How do we bring about the domain perspective, the industry standards, and in leadership skills, which is very important, right? And we bring in both the traditional and non-traditional methods of learning, right? Which is extremely important because also of the factor that we
if
have.
I can interrupt, Bindu,
Yeah.
Harman University has been there for quite some time, and
Yeah.
you have done a lot of work around this.
Yes.
So this strategy that you mentioned about triple E, what
Yeah.
engage, enable, and empower,
Yeah.
is already there in your domain.
Yeah.
Are you going to change anything for the new workforce?
Yes. So how do we really modify our focus areas from an engage, enable, empower? For example, Akhil, when we talk about engage today, the pandemic situation has thrown a new challenge to us. So at some point in time, we had all entire workforce working virtually. Today, we had the hybrid work environment today. So in these various situations, how do we still uphold the Harman goals and objectives? How do we really, reach out to every employee? How do we get employee, committed and loyal to the entire Harman values? How do we really give the platform for them to, feel passionate about what they do?
And you
for Harman?
intend to do this with more training and learning programs, both
Yeah,
online and offline?
Yes, so we do. We have actually extended learning, a lot more into the online, which was not traditionally, what Harman was ever known for. Apart from that, what we are also doing is we have accelerated, the identification of the critical talent pool within the organization across different levels, right? And then how do we really sort of identify and develop this key talent, right? Because at the end of the day, these are, those key talent who is going to drive the organization's success, right?
And you're
So
going across the spectrum of your talent pipeline?
Yes, that's absolutely. So today, if you see in Harman, Akhil, we have, 5 different programs happening at different levels. This is to ensure that we create that sort of that talent pool, which is build capacity for change.
So obviously, it's very obvious from your response, Bindu, that there's a lot of focus, and obviously the senior management is very deeply involved with this.
Absolutely.
So let me then, I'll come back to you on this empowerment thing, because it's a very important piece that is going to be very big necessity in future. Let me move to Raghav. Raghav, you are in a very envious position to know the full industry, what's going around. What is your view of what is happening in overall industry besides Coursera, of course you must talk about Coursera also. But overall, what is your view? What is happening in industry? How are people coping, or are they not coping, or are they just groping in the dark?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share some of what we are seeing, Akhil, and absolute pleasure to be here with both of you. There have been changes, I think, happening at a very fast pace. And as Coursera, because we have 80 million people on our consumer platform, we have 6,000 organizations who train their people on our enterprise platform. I have the benefit of data. And over the last 1 year or so of COVID, we've seen what is called double disruption that is happening in industry. And when I say double disruption, automation because of AI, machine learning was already happening. COVID has added to what was happening. And double disruption is resulting in 4 specific things that are happening on industries in general. One, there are job losses. There are significant number of job losses that are happening. Second, for many industries, the kind of core skills are changing very dramatically. Bindu spoke about it a little bit as well. Third, even when COVID goes away, work from home will continue for many of us. We will continue to be at home 3-4 days a week. And I think almost 80-90% businesses in the country as well as around the world have said that we will digitalize at a faster pace. So lesser jobs, different skills, more work from home, more digital skills, basically means that for all of us as working professionals, irrespective of the function that we are in, the need for reskilling, the need for data skills, the need for digital skills is becoming very front and center. And increasingly, I think both organizations and employees are saying that the responsibility of getting the workforce ready for the future is not just lying with the employee, but with the organization as well. And this is coming from the World Economic Forum. This is coming from research from organizations like Deloitte as well. And I would say that's probably a high level view of what we're seeing across industry.
But Raghav, all this, what you mentioned is so true for, say, industries which are IT, ITES, service type, and big organizations. And I would also put it rich and famous. There is a large chunk of MSME and manufacturing sector, which is getting, what you may say, caught between the devil and the deep blue sea in this crisis. What is your view of that? How will they cope?
I would say the need for new skills is as relevant for MSME as well. If you are in a smaller industry, chances are that technology is impacting the smaller industry as well. The reality might also be that the kind of skills, the kind of talent an MSME is able to attract might be lesser than a large company is able to attract. And I think that's where, platforms like Coursera have a big role to play, where because of our size and scale, we're able to bring high quality learning available to people, at very, very low investments on a per individual basis as well.
So
and I think that's where platforms have a role to play.
Raghav, do you foresee that in-house L&D department in many organizations will lose the luster, and the whole issue of learning development will be outsourced to people like Coursera?
I think a lot of change has already happened, Akhil, from an organizational standpoint. Learning and development used to be responsible for the full cycle of figuring out what's the content, creating that content, delivering that content, and all of that. Learning and development in many companies is a curator today, right? Which skills to be building is coming from platforms like Coursera because we have the benefit of data. Engaging the teams is where I think L&D departments have a big role to play. And then also making that content relevant.
They will only become coordinators, you mean?
I wouldn't say coordinators per se, but I would say curators and engagers of these programs.
So let me move to
would be
Bindu,
possibly
Raghav.
what I would say. Yeah.
Well, let me move to Bindu. Bindu, this is exactly opposite of what Harman and you are attempting. What is your view?
So, Akhil, I've been in the industry for now 2 decades and predominantly spend my time in the learning space. And I've always felt that I think this is like the most evolving function, within HR, right? Because I think the time I started, the role of L&D is very different from today that you see. And I think various challenges that the industry has faced in the past and that currently that we are through is actually, actually is also leading to these changes and the way the industry is evolving. So in Harman, if you see, L&D is become more critical than ever before. Because, while we do have, and Raghav is right, in terms of, because we spend less time in course content design, etc., right? Because that's something which we can, get from our learning partners, right? And today, there's a lot of analytics there. It really works. It's not off the shelf. It's really customized to meet Harman requirement. So then where do we really spend our time? Our time is spent to be playing a more strategic partner to business, in understanding some of the end customer challenges and issues and expectation, and how do we come back and, get our house ready and prepared to meet
That's an
those requirements.
excellent response, Bindu, because the expertise of an in-house L&D department, if they understand business and customize the offering, using offerings from, say, Coursera, then you are marrying two combinations very sensibly for a business benefit. What are the challenges that you foresee in doing this, very briefly?
The challenges, if you come, so just before the challenge, what's really working well for us in Harman? We have dollars, we have budget, we have a learning platform, we have buy-in, which is very, very important, right? So we are good there. Now, what's our real challenge? So, couple of key challenges that I can share. One is employee have to overcome the obstacle of time, in the current scenario, and have that sort of headspace to actually be able to learn. And this is getting really crucial in the current pandemic situation, because I think there's a lot of discussion in terms of how this boundaryless working hours is really sort of, in practice for quite some time, and there's more expectation from work. So how would we get that quality time from employee where we can actually help him or her invest in the learning space? That's the most challenging one, Akhil.
Okay.
And the second one is, as Raghav started, his talk by saying the rapid pace of change.
Right.
To be very honest, business is transforming in ways. It's not entirely certain, like which of the person's skills are still relevant, which ones need to be upgraded, and what new skills to be added. So, for L&D working along with business to arrive at something at the pace with which the transformation is happening is another huge challenge. And then there is a lot more hype on the surface. Every day you get to hear, say, for example, digital marketing, AI, and there are like many other jazzy new areas, which probably take that, as a top of everyone's mind. But the question really is this is what people require to work on, So that becomes a debate and, a discussion point, so there need to be a due diligence from L&D to really arrive at, not go by what we hear, but then to really understand the reality and then work towards it to make it.
Let me move to you, Raghav. As a managing director of Coursera, a lot of industry people must be approaching you that, look, we want to get our people trained. How can you partner with us? Now, the challenges that Bindu mentioned are real. There are in many industries are similar challenges. What is your prognosis and advice to on such challenges to the industry?
So over the last few years, I would say we've seen, across industries, lack of professional development continued to be the reason for employee turnover. That's what was the purpose that L&D organizations were trying to solve, that look, if we provide professional development to people, they would stay. And over the last, I would say, few years, given the impact of technology that companies have seen, the need for reskilling and upskilling that Bindu spoke about as well, we've seen the strategic intent moving from keeping your top talent to keeping your talent on top, if I can say that, because
like that word.
How do you make sure
you say that again?
So I said the strategic objective of L&D and HR has moved from keeping your top talent to keeping your talent on top.
Good play on
to do that, it's a fairly straightforward 4-step process. I would say plan, curate, engage, and measure. How do you plan what are the right skills your people need? How do you curate the right content? Not necessarily what you've created yourself, but platforms like Coursera have a massive role to play there. How do you engage employees? Bindu spoke about time paucity, even when you're working from home. And then more importantly, how do you measure the impact of that learning? Not just the traditional completions and number of hours and so on, but measurable metrics like what was the business outcome that was delivered? What was the skill development that happened? And I think that can enable us to keep talent on top.
I like that word that you used, and it's very appropriate. It's unfortunate that we have such a short time to have a chat with you, but this is more like an appetizer that both of you have provided to whet the appetite. In conclusion, what will be your brief advice, a few words, say in 5 words, what would you advise the industry to do going forward? Bindu, less than 5 words.
Okay, sure. So,
sure is 2 words.
Okay, fantastic. So continue focus on your talent. That's extremely important.
Focus on challenges.
Yeah.
Focus. Don't let the eye off the ball.
Yeah.
Good way, ma'am. Raghav?
Develop lifelong learning muscle in many more employees in your organization.
Many more employees?
Some already have that muscle. You need to have many more people
spread the skill.
That's right.
Now, both of you have brought a lot of valuable inputs, and thank you very much. I'm not just being formal, but I know in a short time that we have, you scratched the surface that the challenges are real. Some people will do it in-house like Harman. Some people will look at help from outsourcing like Coursera. Both are good. Both are appropriate depending on the need of the organization. And I like the word Raghav used, that the L&D functions will have to get a little more sensible and become curator. Don't do everything yourself. If something is available, bring it to the table. Choose the best and in the best possible way, use it. But that would be the mantra going forward. So thank you, Bindu. Thank you, Raghav. Thank you for joining this short conversation. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.